You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates. You're listening to Absolute Empowerment with Coach Jeff Connors on The Sports Objective. Join Coach C, a USA Strength and Conditioning Hall of Famer, every Monday night as he and a variety of guests, including former players, former and current coaches, pastors, and others will discuss relevant issues in coaching today's athlete, with the goal of equipping the athlete and those coaching them with the physical, mental, and spiritual armor necessary to live their best life. Here's Coach Connors.
Welcome to Absolute Empowerment with Jeff Connors. Today's a very special day for the show because we have Dr. George Koonce on the show, former starting linebacker for the Green Bay Packers, Super Bowl champion, ECU Hall of Famer, and also Senior Vice President for University Relations at Marian University, and my friend, Dr. George Koonce. Welcome to the show.
Man, it's a pleasure. I've been waiting for the invite, but my mailman, the postal worker, told me it got hung up somewhere. So I've been waiting for this invite to come up and have a conversation with you. I
got you. Well, George, what I want to talk about maybe first was kind of, how we got to know each other, how we became friends. And, I didn't have the opportunity to coach you directly when you were at ECU. I got there, I guess, a year after you graduated, got there for the 91 season. But during the time you were with the Packers, you were home, and I had the pleasure of meeting you, and then we actually started to train together. And I really valued your friendship quite a bit during that time period. We had a lot of fun together. And so, we had to get ready for Kent Johnson's program with the Packers. And I remember that he ran that same test that I've run over the years, that 300-yard repeated shuttle in 25-yard increments. So we had that one. And then, of course, we did a lot of lifting together. And we spent some time eating breakfast at the Waffle House because that was one of the few breakfast places in Greenville at the time. But I was extremely impressed with your abilities, of course.
Right.
The one time you and I were benching, we'd usually do about 5 or 6 sets of bench. We were doing 315 for sets of 5. And here I thought I was doing okay. And then one day you decided on the last set to hit about 12 reps with 315. So I guess when you were doing those sets of 5, you just didn't want to make me feel bad.
Well,
but yeah, man, just going back then.
You trained. First of all, you trained me well. I was very, very fortunate. Like you said, I miss you. Our ships kind of passed through the night with you coming to East Carolina and me kind of leaving, transitioning to the professional ranks. But I was very fortunate because I had you as my personal strength and conditioning coach for about, if I played 9 years in the National Football League or 10 years professionally, I had you in my corner for 8 of those 10 years. So I was very, very blessed, and I take it as a plus, because if I would have been in college, I would have had you for about 5 or maybe 4 years. But I had a chance to work with you for a total of about 8, which actually added about 3 or 4 years to my career because of our relationship.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, George. And it was definitely my pleasure. We did a lot of things socially as well. And I remember the one summer that we had, you were particularly outstanding going into camp. And then I think that's the year you made the NFL All-Strength team you reported and ran like a 4.6 at 240 some pounds, and also hit 315 for 18 reps, which is kind of unheard of.
Right.
And,
I ran a 4. Yep. Yeah, you sent me back to Green Bay with a 4.61. I had 6% body fat, and when the test for the bench press came around, I was able to hit it for 18 times, and when you prepare like that physically and mentally on the off season, a lot of times that transfer over into the season. And I was able to get a contract extension from the Green Bay Packers because of my play on the field. But that was a direct reflection from the hard work that we put in on the off-season training.
Yes, sir. And also, I really enjoyed visiting Green Bay and meeting your fellow defensive players. Had a chance to socialize with them some. And George, what I really recognized during that time was the camaraderie was off the charts about how you guys cared about each other, lifted each other up. And maybe you could mention a few of those guys that I had the opportunity to meet and spend a couple evenings with, maybe just kind of talk about that camaraderie a little bit.
Well, I think all of that started when Reggie White came onto the scene in 1993. I like to back up just a little bit. Sure. I came out of East Carolina in 1990 as a senior. Prior to that, I was at Chowan College in Murfreesboro, North Carolina. I didn't play a whole lot as a freshman. They had an unbelievable coach that took over the program in Chowan back in the 1958 season. And I think he had like a 40-year run at Chowan, and he prepared a lot of players. Specifically, he prepared a lot of Pirates, future Pirates. I'm talking about players like Mike Grant. I'm talking about players like a Jody Schultz, who was an outside linebacker for Chowan, came to East Carolina, was a second rounder. He had players like that coming out of the program, and I wanted to follow those guys. So I looked up to him. He talked about those guys a lot during practice and on trips and inside the cafeteria. So I said, East Carolina is a place for me. And on top of that, I was very, very familiar with East Carolina because of the proximity from Greenville to New Bern, North Carolina. So East Carolina, it wasn't really any other school, any other offer that I would have accepted outside of East Carolina, because I was the defensive player of the year on the East Coast at Chowan. And I had a lot of teams coming, Tennessee, NC State, UNC Chapel Hill, but the Wake Forest, but the school for me was East Carolina. I thought it would be a great fit. I thought it would be a great fit for my family, and it turned out to be so. And
yes, sir.
And when Reggie, getting back to it, we had a great locker room in Chowan and Murfreesboro, North Carolina, and then in Greenville we had a great locker room. And then when I got to Green Bay in 1992, things was a little different. The leadership was a little different. The Packers had been on they was in a very particular, very interesting, I'm gonna say it like that, a very interesting situation for almost 20 years. And that was unheard of for a franchise that has won so many championships. The Green Bay Packers have won about 30 now, if you count the ones recently, a total of 13 championships. But at the time when I got there, the leadership was awful. Gosh, awful. And when I got there, I was 22, 23 years old. I was an undrafted free agent. So what I did was just kept my mouth shut and just went with the flow and just try to build relationships with guys in in the locker room because I didn't have a voice. But that all changed around April 9th, 1993, when my good friend Reggie White comes to the program, and we had a many a conversations. Reggie White came to me one day and said he instantly saw that I had great relationships with the players on the team. And Reggie said, "Koonce, I want to cut a deal with you." And I didn't even know what he was talking about. Reggie said, "I want to cut a deal with you." He said, "You give me the locker room, and I'll give you everything else you want. Platform, leadership, contract extensions, etc." I said, "Give you the locker room? What do you mean by give you the locker room?" He said, "Koonce, the guys love you. They come to you for everything. And see, the mystique of Reggie White shies them guys away from me. But if they can just come to me and just find out that I'm just like them, we can take this program to another level." I said, "Reggie, we can make that happen." So I'm going to give an example. Our teammate, let's say like a Doug Evans, he'll come over to me and say, "Koonce, my father just passed away, and I need to get back to Louisiana. Do you know anything about a bereavement ticket?" So what I would do then was call Reggie over to the locker, and I would say, "Reggie, Doug Evans has a situation. His father just passed, and is there anything we can do for us talking to the organization, talking to the coaches?" And Reggie and Doug will start talking, and I slip out of the way.
Yeah.
So now it's just them two talking. So next thing you know, they done built the relationship.
Right.
So I did that multiple times, over 25, 30 times in the locker room. Next thing you know, when guys needed something, they went straight to Reggie.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. Because he was a bona fide leader. And he took the Packers out of the gutter to where they're at now. I'm very fortunate to be on the Packer board of directors. So I get a chance, I've gone from the locker room to the boardroom. So now I've had a chance. I have a chance to look at the numbers, look at the books, as they say.
Yeah.
There's 32 franchises in the National Football League, and those 32 franchises are in metropolitan cities like New York, Miami, Chicago, Cincinnati, Cleveland, LA, Denver. You get the meaning. Washington.
Yeah.
Green Bay has 160,000 people in the city limits. Some neighborhoods in Chicago has 160,000 people. But what I'm trying to get at, out of those 32 organizations, when you look at the P&Ls and you look at the money they bring in, the Green Bay Packers stand at number 9.
Wow.
So they're competing against Dallas.
Yeah.
Who they say supposed to be America's team. Great organization. Great brand. But the Green Bay Packers are nothing to play with when it comes to what they put on the field and what they do behind the scenes for as a business organization, because they have to be ran completely like a business, because they don't have an owner to bail them out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. Well, also, when you kept your Mercedes and your Hummer at my house, I had to explain to my neighbors that I did not have some kind of clandestine activity going on. So I appreciated being able to drive that Hummer around a little bit too.
Right. I left off, one thing about the Packers, a lot of the guys, and it speaks true today, you don't really have to bring your personal vehicles, because the dealerships up in Wisconsin are more than willing to give a current Packer and even former Packers something to drive. And you and Michelle has been kind to my family for over close to about 20 years, 20 plus years now. Coach C, we can go on and on. We could talk about the story where we went in the mountains of West Virginia and went.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you're going to get to that, but we can go on and on and on about our relationship and things that we've experienced together. For me, you are just like a brother, and just that so happened that you trained me and made me one of the best linebackers in the National Football League. And if you go look at the numbers, the Green Bay Packers have been playing football since 1919. Over 10,000 players have played in at least one game for the Green Bay Packers. 10,000 has played in over one game. But the guy that you trained from Little New Bern, North Carolina, East Carolina University, when Football Reference ranked the top 1,000 players, they didn't take the whole 10,000. They said, well, we'll take the top 1,000. The guy that you trained and used to eat at Waffle House landed at number 73 all time. So we're not talking about the Cincinnati Bengals organization. I'm not trying to dish the Cincinnati Bengals or the Carolina Panthers, but the Green Bay Packers got history. And for this little kid that you was able to bring out the best of, my family's indebted to you because
that's awesome, man.
I'm being honest with you. None of my kids have had to pay for college because of what the Green Bay Packers did for me,
right?
From a financial standpoint, and that would have never happened if Jeff Connors wouldn't have came on the scene.
Much appreciated, George. Well, we can mention that little experience quickly.
Let's go. A lot of people don't know where they know him from New Bern, they know him from Chowan, East Carolina, but let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way back, Coach C, because I'm Eastern North Carolina inside out.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do on this show, week in and week out, is we talk about where you grew up, how you overcame adversity through faith to accomplish great things. And, we've talked about this, of course, many times with each other, but you grew up in a segregated small Black community in Eastern North Carolina. And, we want to talk about that experience. So let's go ahead and get into that.
Okay, let's jump into it. Well, the records that I've been able to obtain goes back to the late 1700s, 1780. The United States wasn't a country when my people got here as enslaved people. The ship that my ancestors was on came through Charleston, South Carolina, by way of Ghana. What part of Africa my ancestors come from, we don't know. But we do know the ship came from Ghana to Charleston, and then they were taken to the Jones County area. All right. So my grandma, and I think you may have met my grandma Sudi. She was born in 1912. It was believed that her mother passed at 34, 35 years old in 1920. So they moved to New Bern, North Carolina because of job opportunities. And my dad's brother was the first Koonce. His name is Johnny, was the first Koonce to graduate from high school or college. And it's very ironic that my uncle majored in sociology from North Carolina Central, and I received my PhD in sociology from a Catholic institution in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So we have a long history in Eastern North Carolina that then sprouted out to St. Louis. I have relatives in Chicago, Miami, Florida. So we've been here for a while. I know we had another Koonce in the program, a distant cousin, Richard Koonce.
Yeah.
He came from that Jacksonville area, probably Richlands. That's where a lot of the Koonces were. And a lot of them was known as being educators. So my mom and my grandmother and my uncle preached that education was the ultimate equalizer.
Right.
You have to have it. And I believe what Malcolm X said, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Malcolm X. So you have to, if education is not involved, it's going to be a tough road to hoe.
No doubt. Well, I'm very familiar with Richard Koonce. He's on my Armored Life team, and I had a podcast with he and Danielle. And, of course, they met at ECU. She played basketball. And, man, you talk about two quality individuals now. And Richard is the strength coach now, I believe, at Fayetteville State, doing a great job there.
Wow. First class all the way. East Carolina has produced some unbelievable individuals, not just players, but coaches and administrators.
Right. Well, George, can you talk a little bit about, maybe a little bit more in depth about your experience at Chowan and a little bit about the history of that football program and so forth?
Well, coming out of, a lot of people say, George, you're from, New Bern, but really I'm from Duffyfield. Duffyfield is predominantly Black neighborhood with about 150 to 200 homes, let's say about close to 200 families. It was founded in the late 1890s. That's where I was born and raised, and my mom and dad separated when I was about 9 years old. That's when I moved to the outer skirts of New Bern. Hence, that's why I went to West Craven High School. But academically, I wasn't that strong. And you hear a lot of people talking about Proposition 48 and things like that. I didn't have the GPA, nor did I have the ACT or the SAT to go to a four-year institution. So the NCAA said I had to go to a two-year college and graduate if I wanted to go to a four-year institution. So I went to Chowan. I heard about the history that they had in football and basketball. But when I went to campus to visit, I saw in the trophy case a young man wearing a number 93, and it was a Green Bay Packer uniform. He had a Green Bay Packer uniform on, and I asked Coach Garrison, who was that? And he said, that's Robert Brown. He's from Edenton, North Carolina. George, he came here 79 and 80. He transferred to Virginia Tech, and he was a fourth rounder to the Green Bay Packers. And I'm gonna just tell you how God how things work out, how God is always in it. He said, George, you come here and do what you're supposed to do academically, because I think you're gonna do just fine on the football field. You never know. Maybe one day you might be playing against Robert. And my mom laughed, and we all smiled, and we walked off, and we finished touring the campus. So I end up at that time with some unbelievable incoming freshmen. My roommate was a tight end that transferred. His name was Craig Thompson. He transferred to North Carolina A&T, and he was a fifth rounder. Here I am. I'm transferring to East Carolina. thinking I'm going to get drafted, and I didn't get drafted, and Craig got drafted. But I got to give Craig credit. He probably was the best player on our team at Chowan. Yet, I was the captain, and I was the defensive player of the year on the East Coast, and I'm in the National Junior College Hall of Fame, in there with Cortez Kennedy, Keyshawn Johnson, O.J. Simpson is in there, Warren Moon is in that Hall of Fame. So I'm in the National Junior Hall of Fame as well, along with being in Chowan College, Chowan University's Hall of Fame. So the program was stellar. And let's fast forward. I go coming out of the NFL Europe back in 1992. I get to Green Bay, and I walk into the locker room. The first guy to approach me was a guy that looked very familiar, but I knew I'd seen him before, but I didn't know him. He walked over to me and extended his hand. He said, I'm Robert Brown. Coach Garrison called me and told me you was coming to be a part of the Green Bay Packers. And Robert Brown was that guy that was in the trophy case when my mom and my family was touring Chowan College.
Wow.
So Robert Brown played 11 years for the Packers. He played from 1982 to 1992. So 92 was my rookie year. So I had a chance to play with a guy that I looked up to, that helped recruit me, and now I'm in the locker room with him, and he showed me how to be a professional. And then the next year, Reggie White came in, and then the rest is history.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention, when I was at UNC Chapel Hill, for whatever reason, Reggie White was there, and I was waiting on the elevator down at the bottom floor, and the elevator opened. Here came stepping out of there Reggie White. So I tried not to be too starstruck, and we exchanged a few words, but I did have a chance to meet him firsthand. So I wanted to at least mention that. And that was a very special day because I got to meet him.
He was something else. He was something else. I think Reggie White's first 120 games in the NFL had 121 sacks.
Wow. Yeah.
Played 15 years, had 198 and a half sacks.
Mm. Yeah, he was unblockable.
Yep. He had a heart of gold. Yep.
No doubt. Well, I just kind of rewind a little bit with Wes Craven and Chowan. Who were the people that influenced you the most as far as your development, mentorships, and things of that nature that you can remember from those two places? And I've asked you this one other time. Who was the first white person you learned to trust?
Well, growing up, Coach C, East Carolina, Eastern North Carolina, unfortunately, we have some very tough history when it comes to racial violence and social injustice. Growing up in New Bern, North Carolina, I'm about 50 miles from Wilmington, North Carolina, on Highway 17, and what happened in November 3rd, November 6th, 1898, with the Wilmington Massacre, where over close to 1,000 African Americans was murdered, and the mayor at that time was African American, and they upseated and overthrew the government and everything. So we have some history, but it's a great place, Eastern North Carolina. The state of North Carolina is a great place. We just have to be able to talk with one another and learn to trust one another. And in my personal case, sports gave me that opportunity to intermix and intermingle, interface with people from different neighborhoods, and people from different races. And we were able to ride on the activity buses together. Our parents was able to sit together in the bleachers. And I really believe that sport brought our community and brought our high school closer together. Now, look at things the way things are going now. Look like things are going backwards. But all I can speak on is when I was in high school, we didn't have these type of flare-ups. We were getting along. Matter of fact, we didn't have any flare-ups in the 80s when I was in high school. I had some unbelievable coaches, some unbelievable teammates from all neighborhoods, and I know a lot of people say, well, my best friend is black, or, my best friend is white. But man, I had all my friends they were just people to me, because my mama taught me to look at someone's humanity,
right,
not necessarily their skin color. That looking at someone's skin color, that's frivolous to me. Look at someone. Look at someone's character, and look at how they treat you. Then you make your decision.
No doubt. Well, I know, the football in my life, I always saw it as the great integrator, because, we just found a way to get together and form a team and win, and love each other. And that was huge for me. And my dad taught me that, because he was our high school head coach, and started a recreation program in the summer in the black community in 1966, which you didn't see too often. So I learned that at a very young age.
Right.
And so I wanted to mention the fact that your son, Christian, who was at Chowan playing basketball, is now going to be going to Southwestern Georgia, I believe.
Yes.
Was just here a couple weeks ago to train with me for a week. And, Michelle and I have grown to love Christian. He is an incredible young man, and looks very much like father, and has a lot of the same good habits. And so we've enjoyed him very much, and just want to mention that about his experience at Chowan as well, and the fact that he's going to be playing basketball.
Yep. Christian is a great young man. He came here when he was born in Harlem. I was playing for the Seattle Seahawks. His mom was working in Manhattan at the time, and right away we felt as though we had to make sure education was the most important thing, and enroll Christian in some really good schools, and now he speaks German fluently, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud that he has his undergrad, and now he's in grad school, and he's having the chance to continue his dream, and that is to play basketball. He's a little bit taller than I am. I think he's probably about 6'4", 6'5", probably about 205 pounds, but I wish him the best. I love him to death, and he does. As he gets older, he's starting to look like his dad a little bit.
Absolutely. And, last year when I worked with him, he's about 175, 178. Now he's up to 195. So, he's doing real well with that. And we've, of course, I had to educate him a little bit about how to focus on his lower body a little bit more. So I know that he's doing that now, but I'll be anxious to see how he does this year. And I know he's very excited.
How about that, Coach C? Not only did you take care of me and look out for me as a professional athlete, now you second generation. You're looking out for my son, who's my legacy. Man, like I said earlier, I'm totally indebted to you, because a lot of people don't know this. They think they know because they read in the articles, but they don't know how deep relationships run, and
Yes,
and how close families really are. The Koonces and the Connors have a lot of history, but the community may not know, but our families know. And
that's right.
like I said, and for me, that's the only thing that matters. As long as you and Michelle know, Caitlin and Bo know, that's the only thing that matters to me, because Christian has been hearing about you ever since he was a little bitty guy, and I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud that you get a chance to spend time with him, because I know the advice you're going to give him is the same advice you gave me, and it worked for me. So I'm pretty sure it's going to work for him, because one thing about you, you spread the truth, no matter if you want to hear it or not. That's what you spread. And my mom said, one thing about the truth, it never go anywhere. It stays.
That's right.
My mama said a lie can change in many different forms.
Yeah.
But the truth is the truth. One plus one will always be two. Always.
Sure.
And you
All right.
speak the truth. And I thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. I had the opportunity to drive about 71 miles this morning to out to Camp Vandermeer, which I don't even know how I got there, but I was asked to speak the Pamlico football team this morning. And so I got there about 9:30, about 32 kids there. And the first thing I talk to them about is the armor of God, because, we're in a spiritual warfare every day, whether you know it or not. You're going to have to fight temptations and a lot of things. And if we weren't in warfare, we wouldn't need that armor. And so we got the armor of God. And, of course, the only offensive weapon is the sword. Every other piece of that armor is a defensive weapon. But what I opened up with them was, I want to talk to you about the belt of truth, because the belt of truth holds all the other armor together. And so what I wanted to give them was the truth that I learned as a coach about how they're going to be attacked every day, and how, and I could get into this in a lot of depth, but I'll just mention a few things here. And basically, you get 25 guys coming in as freshmen. By the time the years, there's about 5 or 6 of them left. And for different reasons, a lot of kids go by the wayside. And, that's one of the reasons I started my website, to see if there's anything I could do to save troubled athletes, as an oasis for the troubled athlete. And that's a big reason I'm having these podcasts and trying to get more young guys to listen to these podcasts as well. But I also I wanted to mention that when I interviewed Robert Jones last week, and we talked about that successful 91 season that we got to experience, he went back and basically said, hey, the reason we got to experience that is because of the leadership that George Koonce had in relationship to changing the culture of this football team before he left. And so can you maybe talk about that, George, your leadership and your role, experience?
Well, coming to East Carolina was a dream come true. I talked about some of the players. Another player that comes to mind is a guy named Kenny Phillips, the late Kenny Phillips. He was a Chowan guy, East Carolina guy. But I really wanted to come to East Carolina because I remember watching the Pirates as a young kid, and I always wanted to wear the purple and gold. And right. And being at Chowan, it gave me an opportunity to be up front and be out front. And the guys believed in me. The coaching staff believed in me, and I was able to hone my leadership skills. So when I got to East Carolina, I was able to bring those those skills with me. And I think the guys were very, very receptive to it. We had some outstanding players at East Carolina. Players like Luke Fisher. Robert Jones was no joke. He was a physical specimen. On top of, he could play the position of linebacker like no other. We had Ernie Logan. We had Walter Wilson. I can go on, go on and on. But I just wanted to come in and not necessarily be a leader. I just wanted to come in and be the best pirate I could be and be the best student athlete I could be. And I think guys saw what I was trying to do. And a lot of them followed. I know we had Mark Washington on the team at the time. Jeff Blake was on the team. And I really had a lot of fun. It was great being around those guys. And most importantly, it was great to see those guys grow and develop into being, some of them being excellent business people. I played with a guy named Will Lewis, who was in the construction business. Victor McBride, who went into the construction business because I was in construction management when I was at East Carolina. And to see Jeff Blake develop into one of the top quarterbacks in the National Football League, and to see Robert do his thing and play about a total of 10 years and had an outstanding professional career. And you look at his family, it's very seldom that you see someone have 3 sons to play in the National Football League, but Robert and his wife have pulled it off, and I'm extremely grateful to be able to call him a friend and a leader and a pirate. So,
no doubt. I think I spent about 6 or 8 weeks rehabbing Frankie Smalls and Victor McBride when they were there. And I spent a lot of time with those 2 guys while everybody else was practicing. And then, when I first got there, the first people I met were, Ernie Lewis and Jerry Dillon and Mark Washington and that crew. So, David Daniels, all those guys. So they were, that was a great group of physical individuals.
Jared Dillon was something else. I love this play. I love this edge. Jared Dillon always played with a chip on his shoulder, very physical. I love watching him play. And it was fun just being on the sidelines, watching the offense take the field. And then also, too, special teams. We had my senior year, the special teams captain was a guy named R.L. Beeman, who graduated. Right. He was a student athlete, but graduated number 1 of our class of about 4,000 or 5,000 people. And he went on to Harvard to graduate from Harvard Law School. And now he's currently one of my attorneys. So the Pirates are a great group of individuals. I love them. They give it their all, and they always show up to work, my friend. They will show up.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to meet RL, and he is a very impressive man as well. But J. Dog Dillon and Ernie, those guys were like my right-hand guys. After that group graduated the next year, they were like assistant strength coaches. I mean, they were very demanding of the team. And, of course, we were in transition there because pretty much the whole coaching staff left, but besides a couple guys, and when Steve Logan took the program. So I've always been very thankful for those guys because they kind of held it together when all that transition took place. And
Okay.
And of course, our Ernie, rest in peace. I was so sad to see, to see Ernie pass. Right. But yeah, so I was wondering if you've had some very interesting travels around the globe, and met some very interesting people. Can you talk a little bit about your travels and some of the folks you met and some of the influences you had there?
Well, after my 8 years in Green Bay, I went out to play for the Seattle Seahawks, and the owner of the Seattle Seahawks was a guy by the name of Paul Allen, and he was one of the co-founders with Bill Gates of Microsoft. And Paul Allen owned the Seahawks and the Portland Trailblazers, and he passed probably about maybe 3-4 years ago, probably. He was very interesting to meet, very non-assuming, very humble, even though he was a multi-billionaire. He was a very pleasant individual that would invite the team over to his home to have dinner. He traveled with the team, and I really enjoyed spending time with him. But I've had a chance to be around some outstanding people when it comes to businessmen. I look at Willie Davis, the late Willie Davis, who played for Vince Lombardi, who at the time in his heyday was on the board of Dow Chemicals, Kmart, Sara Lee, Harley Davidson, Northwest Mutual, Manpower, We Energies. Willie Davis was a phenomenal man. 1989, he finished second to Paul Tagliabue for the commissioner of the NFL, and he was an outstanding Packer. He was an outstanding leader. So I had a chance to build a relationship with him as well.
Can you talk a little bit about your trip to, I think it was Israel, right?
Yes, been to Israel. It was because one thing about growing up in New Bern and growing up in Eastern North Carolina, especially the neighborhood I grew up in, we didn't have a lot of resources. We didn't have a lot of material things, but we did have our faith, and that was strong. And I think that's what kind of kept my neighborhood together, even though drugs came through. We had a crack epidemic come through like a virus, like the coronavirus hit our country and hit the world. Crack did that to my neighborhood and almost destroyed it. But one thing about my neighborhood and so many other neighborhoods around the country, they're held together with faith, and from reading the scriptures and reading scriptures with my mom and my grandma and going to church when I was growing up, I always wanted to go to Israel. So I had a chance to go to Israel back in 2010, spend 10 days. And one of the best trips in my life. Had a chance to see it all. So it's very eye-opening. And I'm looking to go back in 2025 with the same group. There's a Jewish college in Cincinnati that I went to go speak to a couple years ago. They'll like for me to make the trip with them when they go back to Israel coming up in 2025. So I got to see what my wife thinks about that.
Yeah.
And head back over, because there's nothing like your faith. Because one thing about football, because your body takes such a beating, I think your faith is paramount.
Right.
Because it keeps you centered in your existence of a higher being and the creator of the universe. You have to stay connected. And I stay connected to the creator of the universe through our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Yes, sir.
It's been a wonderful journey for me. And I'm looking forward. My birthday is coming up, Coach C, in October. I'm going to be a double nickel. I'm going to be the double nickel. So I got more years. I got more years behind me than I do in front of me. So these next 25, 30, I really got to make it happen. I got to make sure, and I believe this. I'm a servant leader. It's all about my neighbors and my friends. So I really got to take it up a notch and make sure I'm taking care of my family's going to be taken care of. But I got to make sure my neighbors and my friends are taken care of before I step off and let Christian and his sons and family carry the mantle. But thank you, Coach C, for everything you've done for me and keeping me prayed up and keeping me in prayer. I want to thank you and Michelle both, because the reason why I keep bringing up Michelle, because she's an extraordinary woman. You know,
Oh yeah.
You look at the things that you've done in your career. There's no way those things could have happened if you didn't have a woman like Michelle behind you. She's she's more than gold. Michelle is platinum.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. She's my hero.
Yeah,
And
let her know. Let her know I said that she's platinum.
I'll do that.
Yep.
And yeah, she is so good at what she does in her profession and what she has done as a mom and now as a grandma. So I just sit back with amazement.
Right.
And
Coach C, you come from along. You talk about my neighborhood, but I think one of the reasons why you was able to get along with a lot of the guys in the locker room is because you come from basically those coal mines.
yes, sir.
Yep. And what I'm trying to say is you didn't have it easy. Nothing was given to you and your family. And I think you can relate to all the people in Eastern North Carolina. Because one thing about me, when I got to East Carolina and at Chowan, all my friends was from different communities, and that was the beauty of it. Our parents might have had different ideas, but that didn't necessarily mean their children had to have those ideas and feelings. So I had some great friends in Eastern North Carolina, and I miss them every day. One of them is a guy named Thaddeus. I know that kind of sounds black, but Thaddeus Lewis.
Okay.
But his name is TJ from Wilson, North Carolina.
Yep.
And had a carpet business, has a carpet and flooring business. Great guy. And he was there for me when my first wife passed away, when Tanisha passed away. Basically, she passed away in the bed with me. And that was tough to kind of bounce back from. But having an ecosystem of support of people like TJ and other friends was able to kind of pull me through. And then after 5 years after my wife passed, I was able to get married again. And I'm going on 10 years of being remarried. But people like TJ Lewis and Frank Williamson and Ray Rogers back in Eastern North Carolina. And I had a whole crew of guys that Rodney Moore, Rodney Harris, all those guys, just people working hard in Eastern North Carolina that loved me for me. And I miss them. And I just want to thank them for all that they did for me, because when that situation happened with Tanisha, it was tough. It was tough on old Koonce.
Yes, sir.
Because I am human. I'm not made out of granite. But to see the mother of your kids deteriorate right in front of you. She was diagnosed at 35 years old with stage 4 breast cancer. And on top of that, she was 6 months pregnant. So I've taken some on the chin, but I'm still standing. I've dropped to a knee before, but it didn't knock me out. I'm still here. And I think with the neighborhood that I grew up, my faith, going to Chowan, and then East Carolina kind of finishing me off and polishing me off and getting me ready for the big times, not just from an athletic perspective, but from a business perspective. I've been okay. Sitting on 2 paid boards now, 5 total boards, sitting on Ascension Healthcare, which is the 3rd largest healthcare system in Wisconsin with over 17,000 employees. We do about $6 billion a year. On Huracan's Banks board, we have about 1.5 billion in assets, 20 branches, 300 employees, 6 of us, and I help with the strategic direction and leadership of the bank. The vice chair of CM Region Insurance, we do about 200 million, and we have 6 board members. I'm the vice chair of that board. So East Carolina got me ready for the big times.
Yes, sir.
Like Mark Washington said, Koonce, you did. He used to call me Tricky. Tricky, you did go to class. He said, I put an APB out for you, trying to find you, but they said you was in class. There was Smokey. There was Mark Washington said, and I told the people that's not true. He do not go to class.
Oh yeah.
Evidently, I did go, and I did learn a little something at East Carolina. They got me prepared. They gave me a great foundation, and I was able to go to grad school at Marquette University and graduated with a 3.8. And the university thought so much of my dissertation, they turned it into a book, Is There Life After Football? And Sports Illustrated said in 2017, it was a top sports-related book in the country. So anything is possible if you believe in God.
Well, before we close, and thank you so much for sharing all those things. Just one more thing I wanted to ask you is that, I know you were with Atlanta first, and I think in the World League, and you had to fight your way into your role in Green Bay, and the heart that you put in and the longevity that you had in the league. What do you think creates longevity in the NFL, and what are the things that you think with guys that are maybe very talented but don't last very long? What are the things that take you down, and what are the things that make you stay?
Well, Coach C, let me see if I can get this right. I don't think it's ability when we're talking about the NFL now. Yeah. I don't think it's all about ability. I think it's more about availability, because you can be an unbelievable athlete with all these tools and skills and be a first rounder, but you injured. One thing about the National Football League, they're going to send you on your way, because one thing about the Green Bay Packers and those other 31 football franchises, when you get there, it's all about production, and availability. It just so happened that I played in counting playoff games. I played in 135 games, and I started 128. I ended up starting 92% of the games I played in. And if you go back and do the numbers, we're talking about a team that went to 2 straight Super Bowls, 3 straight NFC championships, And this little kid from Duffield, New Bern, North Carolina, East Carolina University, if you average out the pay over those 8 years I was in Green Bay, my salary stands at number 5 from a little kid from Duffield. So my thing to the kids who may be listening, to the youth, if you have a dream, stick with it. It might sound crazy to somebody else, but it's not crazy to you. Because I had a dream of playing in the National Football League. And the reason why I wanted to play is because watching Monday Night with Howard Cosell when I was 9 years old, I saw the intro, him and Don Meredith, and I saw those skyscrapers. And I told my mom, I said, I want to play in the National Football League because I want to stay in one of those hotel rooms because I think that's where the team stay before the night before the game. Right. It was nothing about money. It was nothing about getting rich. For me, it was all about staying in a hotel. But that was my dream.
Right.
And I was able to accomplish that. But I had an unbelievable support system. I'm going to say an ecosystem of support, individuals like yourself that surrounded me and picked me up when I was down. I was able to start 10 games as a rookie, undrafted rookie, and never came out of the starting lineup, therefore, going forward.
I hear that. Well, I really appreciate the interview, George, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you sometime in the near future. And I wish you the best at the university.
Right.
I know that your position, just by the nature of the title, I know that you have to interact with people every day. Is that correct?
Exactly. Raise money, put partnerships together, and
okay.
And I'm gonna get my opportunity. My role and my voice is gonna get bigger, because one thing about leadership that never goes out of style. And I'm gonna continue to be. I'm going to continue to grow as a leader. I'm going to get better, and opportunities are going to come my way, and I'm going to be ready. But I'll never forget the people that helped get me here. And Wes Craven, they gave me a great foundation. There's about three or four of my classmates that taught me how to write.
Gotcha.
They have to be co-eds though. They have to be co-eds. They taught me how to write, and I've been writing ever since. And I just want to let the youth know, if George Koonce can do it, they can do it. You just got to stick to your plan. You got to put that plan together and stick to it, and you can accomplish everything and even more than what I've accomplished, because we talked about 10,000 guys played in one game for the Green Bay Packers. Only 2 of them, that sounds good and sexy, but only 2 of them went on to receive a PhD, and one of them is from East Carolina University, visiting with you on this Sunday afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Well, thanks so much for being on, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. This is Jeff Connors signing off for Absolute Empowerment. God bless, and join us next week. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Absolute Empowerment with Coach Jeff Connors on The Sports Objective. Join us every Monday night for a new edition of the show. Listen to the show pretty much everywhere podcasts are found. Be sure to follow us on social media at The Sports OBJ on Twitter and TikTok, at The Sports Objective on Instagram. Like and follow our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. As always, we appreciate you listening to the show. And go Pirates!